So there are all kinds of Englishes now. It's not bear in mind. The second, obviously, is the area of English literatures. Let me also tell you that there's nothing like English literature anymore. There are literatures written in English. There's nothing like the English literature or the British literature. There are literatures written in English language. And we have to now, written in New Zealand, English literature written in African countries, English literature written by the African Americans, by the blacks, by the Italians, by the Irish people, and there is so much of but written in English or made available in English translations. So in both ways, when we speak about language, we are not speaking of a singularity. Brief remarks. I'm wishing you all the best. I'm wishing you a very, very fruitful stay on these premises. I declare that the
English language and literatures in English. Now I invite the chairperson and the president of our institution, Honorable Sri Vinayak Rauji Patil sir, to deliver his.
या अशा प्रकारच्या कॉन्फरन्स आचार्य त्यामुळे आपलं सुद्धा या प्रसंगी मी आपलं अभिनंदन करतो. असा विषय ट्रेंड इन इंग्लिश लँग्वेज अँड लिटरेचर्स असा अर्थच कळल्यावर खूप ट्रेंड चाललाय. पुढे ट्रेंडपेक्षा सुद्धा जोरात पाडायला तर थोडासा माफी चाहते बात करता हूं. आम्ही विसरून गेलो आईचं आणि बाबाचं. इन ट्रेन में क्या हो गया है खान साहब, हम भूल गए हैं आईचं आणि बाबाचं. A for apple and B for ball and C for cricket. शिवाने खूप भाषण केले. कार्यक्रमाचा अध्यक्ष नेहमीप्रमाणे काय नेहमी बसवतात मला अध्यक्ष म्हणून शिकायचं कुठं असतं तसं घरात लक्ष्मी बसवतात बघा तसं गरुड सरांचे अध्यक्ष म्हणून बसवतात ना. शेवटचा प्रसंगाला भाषण करायचं. त्यांनी खूप विदेशा वस्तूवरती टीका केली. आता माझा अध्यक्षीय भाषण गाव काय परत आण जे ठेवून गेले ते परत पाठव. त्यांनी म्हणजे काय केलंय तर त्यांनी सांगितलं की इंग्लंड मधले लोक A for apple, B for ball, C for cricket. हे पाहिजे. I don't म्हणजे मी इंग्रजीचा विरोधक नाही ना. इंग्रजीचा I am not so opposed to English, but I want to tell you the local language it must. You are right, sir. Local language it must. Our history in English. The Karnataka history, Maharashtra history, Punjab history, the Indian history. Why learn in his English? They learn his own language. They have accepted. History. तो छत्रपती सुद्धा म्हणतो छत्रपती म्हणतो. एका बांधकाम खेड्यातला स्टेशन जिथे कधीच ट्रेन थांबत नाही त्याला ज्याला गर्दी झाली. इंग्लिश स्टाईल मध्ये इंग्लिश आपने बोला ना हर स्टाइल की इंग्लिश होगा लंडन का लंडन स्टाइल इंग्लिश. ते लंडन स्टाइल मध्ये चहा मागितलं घर पाडण्यात दिलं. वो लंडन स्टाइल में चहा मागितलं. I want to कॉफी. क्या बोले I want to कॉफी. त्याला वाटलं मला कपटी म्हणतो. त्याला म्हणलं तुझा बाप कपटी. दुसऱ्याला म्हणलं I want to कॉफी. तुझा माय कपटी. सकाळी गेले गेले बोलने जाएंगे.
To Honorable Sri Vinayak Rauji Patil Sahib, President of our college, President of our institution, and MLA, ex-Minister Baswaraji Patil Sahib, General Secretary of our institution, and all the members of Shramjeev Shikshan Prasarak Mandal for their constant support and guidance to conduct such type of endeavor. It is indeed a very memorable day when Dr. A.J. Khan sir is with us for the inaugural program of this national level seminar. I extend deep regards and hearty thanks to Honorable Dr. A.J. Khan sir for blessing the inaugural ceremony and sharing with us his vision about recent trends in English language and literature. I wish to express my deep sense of gratitude to all the chief guests, Dr. Arjun Jadhav sir, Dr. Baswar Dunur sir, Dr. Ramesh Chaudhary sir, Dr. S.S. Kalare sir, and Dr. Mohanji Jhade sir for their presence and this inaugural function. I thanks to all the scholars who contributed their articles for the proceedings of this book with ISBN. I am also thankful to all the delegates, participants, paper presenters, research scholars and students for their active participation in this national level seminar. I am grateful to our driving force, respectable principal.
Very complimentary. Now, if they are complimentary, I am also very happy that the organizers of this seminar thought years of language and literature. So, as a result, we have this seminar on recent trends or developments in language studies and in literary studies. So, must extend my regards to the faculty and the organizers of this seminar and my appreciation of them all. No, but I would like to begin with a slightly, different note. Lots of recent writings, definitely, there's no doubt about that. And we can always divide the idea of the temporal recent into phases and periods. Say, the kind of literature that was produced in 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, 90s, and over the last decade or so. So that could be seen as recent historically, in terms of time. But literature as a whole, and we can speak about literature produced in different kinds of cultural locations. There's nothing very, very recent about the development of a literary trend. Literary trends do not have that kind of a temporal urgency. Trends evolve over a long period of time, gradually build up as potential ways of looking at life, and then because of various kinds of historical, political and intellectual pressures, there are new areas that slowly surface, and yet what has already been written, what has gone into the making of our literary culture keeps surfacing over and over again. What we call post-colonialism is not as post as colonialism itself. The very powerful traces of the colonial discourse, the native discourse, keep constantly surfacing in these discourses, giving them new energy, restructuring these discourses, reformulating them, giving them new directions, new dimensions, or maybe at times adding to the rich heritage of this academic engagement. So we must bear in mind this fact that the idea of the recent, we can speak of recent in historical terms, certainly, but recent trends is, I think, a very, very debatable issue. We must debate on the very concept of recent in literature, one. Secondly, when we speak of recent, what exactly do we assume? Do we have a span of time in our mind? What exactly do we mean? How do we measure the idea of the recent in historical terms? Because if you look at the submissions of this seminar, I had the opportunity to glance through some of the papers that were, or the abstract that were brought into this volume. And I could see papers on all kinds of literary forms, literary genres, and all kinds of areas of language. And some of the writers, Anita Desai, for instance, there is a paper on Anita Desai. So, how recent is Anita Desai? So I personally feel that we must very seriously debate. We can speak also, Mr. Lobo, I'm sure you will agree, that we can speak of literary relevance. The most crucial issues in literary studies is, especially critical studies, when you take up a piece of writing, a poem or a play, or a novel, or a short story, dating back to 1950s and 1960s and 1940s, society of our own contemporary conditions and realities. So, is Shakespeare not recent? That's the question. Is Tukaram not recent? Is Ghalib not recent? Can you say that no, Tukaram is not, does not constitute the idea of the recent? Ghalib and Shakespeare do not constitute the idea of the recent. Why do we then read Shakespeare? Why do we insist on keeping Shakespeare as a perpetual item on our syllabi? Why do those who study Marathi language insist on working over and over again on Tukaram, on Gandhi? So the whole issue, therefore, I personally feel is not of debating the historicity of the writer, but the cultural relevance of the writer. How does the writer make himself culturally relevant? Tukaram, Ghalib, Ganeshwar from that matter, or Vaina Bai, or a Shakespeare, or a Dickens, or a Lawrence Foster, or a Kingsley Amis or a Martin Amis for that matter. How do they make themselves relevant? Number one, within the ambience of that language. When we talk about the idea of relevance, we must first think about the relevance of the writer within the ambience of that language he is using as a medium, and the culture within which he is placed. We cannot talk of a Dickens or a Kingsley Amis without referring to the mainstream British culture. Dickens or Kingsley Amis cannot be placed outside the mainstream English culture. Or William Faulkner cannot be placed outside the American culture, and we know that Faulkner is essentially a southern writer. He was dealing with the antebellum and the postbellum South, the South before the Civil War in America and the South after the Civil War in America. So number one, I think we must constantly use this paradigm of relevance of a particular author or a literary trend or a movement within the structure of language, because it invariably refers to the cultural locations, the kinds of cultural locations that language constantly refers back to. And number two, we must also think about this whole issue of relevance in terms of the larger intellectual relevance of the writer. So Dickens is not important simply because he was writing about poverty, he was writing about the welfare state, he was writing about the gradual decadence and decline. And juvenile crime is relevant even to our own times. There are another social article studies on juvenile delinquency, especially the departments of sociology and the department of psychology, the state departments. It is that kind of an intellectual, rigor, that kind of an intellectual stamina, energy, that exudes from writers like Dickens or Tolstoy, Lawrence, or whoever you may think about. So I would like you all as senior faculty and as delegates in this seminar to consider these two areas. The first, we have to locate the writer within the ambience of the language within which he is operating, working, and then the larger intellectual or cultural relevance of the writer to his own times and to our times. So it is in that sense that literature carries within its own ambit the value of permanence. If literature has a permanent relevance, if Shakespeare has a permanent relevance, Tukaram or a Kabir has a permanent relevance because of this kind of a intellectual engagement with human issues, with the issues of the human society. And that, I think, is a very important idea to carry along when we discuss these trends. There are a series of issues apart from these. It's just a few very normal and ordinary opening remarks that I wanted to offer. Then we have to talk about a series of issues that were very crucial to our understanding of this whole business of language and literature. There was an international conference held in September 2012 at Chennai in collaboration with the ELTA of India. And I'm just giving you an example of how sometimes in a very, very orderly fashion and sometimes in a casual way, we structure our seminars around certain issues. The seminar also focused on recent trends. That was 2012. We are at the end of 2013, 14. We have already begun. And 2 years after, look at the issues we were talking about. They wanted papers in feminism. So can feminism constitute this whole idea of the recent in literature? Papers on the study of the marginal and the subaltern, the whole idea borrowed from Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak's debates, and then sociologically from Guha's volumes on the subaltern within the Indian context. Papers on performing arts. What kind of a form of dance or drama is prevalent right now? What kinds of dance? Because performing arts basically deal with these performances. Papers on translation and qualitative and qualitative and so on and so forth. So these areas that we have been debating constantly over the last few decades. It's not a recent debate. Feminism is not at all a recent debate. It began in the 19th century with Mary Shelley, Wollstonecraft's publication, the vindication of the human rights. And feminism has a number of shades now. When we speak about the recent, historically at least, we must very seriously think about the kinds of changes that have occurred within the feminist discourse. In what way the French feminism is different from the American feminism, the black feminism is different from the white feminism, or the third world feminism is categorically and very, very, powerfully different from the first world feminism, and what kind of a feminism do we perceive within the tribal cultures. There are lots of tribal novels in Marathi now. There are novels written by tribals in Marathi language, and there are novels written by tribals in Canada, in Australia. The Canadians have a small group of the Red Indians who live across the Pacific, especially in Victoria Islands, and they have their own body of literature. You have the American Indians, those Red Indians who were, systematically eliminated by rights and women's body of writing. What kind of writing do we come across within black feminists like Toni Morrison or Alice Walker? How do they perceive feminism? So we do not have one kind of a feminism. As I told you this morning, we do not have one English at all, and we do not have one English literature. We have this idea. I think we must realize that the whole idea of our engagement with we are not speaking about one particular movement or trend in feminism. We are talking about multiple trends within the feminist history. In terms of film, well, you don't have a one kind of a film. You have the mainstream Hollywood genre that is made available to all of us on these TV channels like HBO and Star Plus and Star, where you have the run-of-the-mill John Travolta and Nicolas Cage, Sandra Bullock kinds of people, and you have the Italian film. You have the Iranian film, you have the Russian film, you have the Czechoslovakian film, or you have the Bengali film, you have Budvi Khatak and Satyajit Ray. So then we have that, that mixture of emotion, drama and action in the film, dance, of drama, of music, even music. You have the North Indian school of music, you have the South Indian school of music, you have different kinds of gharanas, then you have the popular music, and then you have the Sufi kind of a pop, then you have the classical Sufi music, you have the popular Sufi music. So it's a kind of a plurality that we are constantly engaged in. So I would like to suggest that when we talk about these trends in literature or language, and studies of humanity, it's called digital humanities. There's a very recently, now the FLO, the Institute of English and Foreign Languages University, is hosting an international seminar on digital humanities. Humanities as a whole, obviously, which includes